All right, guys, we are back with our third segment of the night. Once again, shout out TJ, shout out Jeremy. Thank you guys for coming on. If you guys are still in the stream watching here, but we'll be talking about Sheldon Keefe and how he got hired as the Devils' next head coach. This news dropped, I believe it was yesterday, a little bit later in the day. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you guys that if you would like to if you guys would like to support the show, you can use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. Any questions that you have, you could also put that in the notes there, and then I can read it live on air for you guys. But with that being said, we are going to get right into Sheldon Keefe, the former Toronto Maple Leaf head coach, who he was in Toronto for the last 5 years, taking them to the Stanley Cup playoffs in every single playoffs that he was with them. Had an amazing record in the regular season. He was a fantastic head coach for Toronto. Fantastic regular season head coach. He just could never get it done in the playoffs. And when he left Toronto, that's what he said. He made a statement once he left saying, "Thank you to the city, thank you to the fans, thank you to all the people in the organization. I didn't get it done in the playoffs, and that's why I'm not there anymore." He really understood that. And when you're on a team like Toronto, when you're on a team like the Maple Leafs, that's really what it is. You need to win. You need to win in May. It does not matter what you do the other 11 months of the season, the other 11 months during the off season. If you don't put a team together, if you don't put the lines together, and if you don't execute, when it comes to the playoffs, you are not going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach for long. We see this in so many sports. We see this Lakers organization. We see this Cowboys. We see this, perennial winners, Yankees, Red Sox, all these fan bases that are spoiled from winning, for the lack of a better term. They expect greatness. And when it doesn't happen in Toronto especially, the hockey capital of the world, you're gonna face repercussions, and he had to face repercussions. Once again, this wasn't because he was a bad coach. He just didn't get it done in the playoffs. Now he's going to the New Jersey Devils, and what is their problem right now is they can't make it to the playoffs. They had high hopes. They really probably should have made it as that second wildcard spot over the Washington Capitals. However, they just failed to do so. And they end up getting a high draft pick or a lottery pick instead. They have the talent put together on paper here. Just looking at this team, it's a very young and great team. First off, you have absolute superstars in Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier. Eric Howla is a great depth piece. Alex Holtz is an amazing young forward. You have Andre Palat. You have Curtis Lazar, just great pieces on this team put together to win. On the back end, John Marino has been a serviceable defenseman, a top four defenseman. You have Luke Hughes, who is a very young, budding defenseman. Simon Nemec, who is an amazing young defenseman. He might be the best out of his draft class when it come to the defensemen in that class. Of course, that being the 22 class. That we saw David Jiricek, Denton Matejchuk all coming in, both of those guys from the Columbus Blue Jackets, two defensemen. So far, Simon Nemec looks like the top defenseman of that draft class. For them, they're really lacking goaltending, and another big problem is Dougie Hamilton is on. It was injured for most of this year, and he's been injured ever since he really came to New Jersey, when he came from Carolina back in 2021, I want to say it was, when he came to the New Jersey Devils. He's always been injured, so if they could get him back, that would be a huge addition. He's always been great when he's been healthy. A big problem for them, though, the biggest red flag for the New Jersey Devils is goaltending. They do have Jake Allen, former Blues goaltender, probably a bottom 10 goaltender in the league, and then Kaapo Kähkönen is backing up, but he is also a UFA. They do have a lot of money to work with this offseason. They have about $20 million to work with, and they don't really need to re-sign anybody. They could re-sign Chris Tierney if they want to. Dawson Mercer is due for a big contract. That's another great top six piece that they enjoy. He's 22 years old, but really the core of this team is so young. They're already on contract. You have $20 million to use. They're going to be big spenders this offseason in free agency. I'm very interested to see what they do with this roster. They really need to make up about 10, 15 points in regular season points to make it to the playoffs, to make it to that next step. And I believe Sheldon Keefe, first off, he is a big step in doing so, but you're going to need to spend money in free agency, which I believe they're getting ready to do. When it comes to the New Jersey Devils, I believe they got set back a couple years ago when Johnny Gaudreau didn't come to New Jersey, or didn't go to New Jersey. He was very heavily rumored to be between New Jersey and Philadelphia, ends up going to Columbus, having a pretty successful tenure in Columbus now, but you could only imagine what this team would be able to do, what this team would have been able to do if Johnny Gaudreau was on it. Just imagine a line of Johnny Gaudreau, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt. Then your second line is a combination of Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, Andre Palat. Third line going to be something like Dawson Mercer, Curtis Lazar, Eric Howla. And then really any three on the fourth line could do. Alexander Holtz is another name that I haven't even mentioned here. He could be a scoring fourth line option. And then you do need help on the back end. You're really hoping that Luke Hughes takes another step forward. All the Hughes brothers are so great that there's just greatness in that bloodline. Quinn and Jack have already proven to be maybe even top 20 players in the NHL. And now it's Luke's turn. He's only 20 years old, and he definitely can do so. What a great addition for the New Jersey Devils Luke Hughes is. But if they could add a superstar defenseman in free agency, maybe as a trade in this offseason for their draft pick, actually, I'm gonna look to see where they're drafting real quick. They have the 10th overall pick in this draft, so we will see what they decide to do with that, if they stick and pick or if they use that as a trade to get that top two defensemen on their team that they're missing, that it looks like would help this team a lot. I think that it would help this team a lot and go a long way into getting this team into the playoffs. But as Sheldon Keefe goes, once again, as I said, he is an amazing regular season. He's an amazing regular season coach. He was he had the best points percentage of a Toronto Maple Leafs head coach in the regular season of all time, with a minimum of 5 seasons coached. That's an impressive stat. It's in Toronto. This is a storied franchise. So doing something like that in Toronto is very impressive for Sheldon Keefe. I am shocked that he wasn't able to get it done in the playoffs. It's just the Boston Bruins monkey on the back. Jeremy was talking about that in the last segment, or Jeremy and TJ were both talking about it in the last segment. Sheldon Keefe might have been just a product of that Boston Bruins team that just seems like you could never get past if you're Sheldon Keefe, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was unfortunate because that core, of course, is so good, and Sheldon Keefe is a good head coach. I can't state this enough. It wasn't his fault, anything that happened in Toronto. He just didn't get the job done, and when that happens, you get fired. You see it, as I said, in many sports. So unfortunate for him, but we'll see if he could turn it around. It's an old additive in hockey that the second stop for a coach is always its most successful. This is Sheldon Keefe's second stop. We'll see what he decides to do. Of course, he was fired by the Toronto Maple Leafs, so he could have really just sat on the couch collecting the paycheck for a couple years while he lets the league play out and sees the best opportunity. But he decided that this New Jersey Devils job was the best opportunity for him. It's going to be weird seeing him not in Toronto. 5 years with the Maple Leafs, he was really the face, not the face, but he was the boss of this core for the last 5 years, really since it's been together with John Tavares. So not seeing him as the head coach is going to be kind of a little bit jarring for me, but he's off to greener pastures in New Jersey, hopefully. For Sheldon Keefe, of course, everybody in the hockey world wishes him nothing but the best. He's such a class act guy. If you guys haven't seen his farewell video to Toronto, what a classy guy he is. So that'll wrap it up for this discussion on Sheldon Keefe, the new Jersey Devils head coach. And when I get back for my third break of the night, we will be talking about Gabriel Landeskog, the Colorado Avalanche captain. Can he make a return next year? And what does that look like for the Colorado Avalanche?